after falling 40 feet.
Jackson County authorities released the mugshot of the jailer arrested Wednesday.
And a woman disappeared after stopping to help a toddler she saw walking on an interstate.
And congratulations, everybody. We made it up to 100 degrees again today. For the weekend, what do you think? Yeah, about 100 degrees, but how long? We'll be talking about that coming up in a moment.
And the two fights I was able to attend at Tap and Scrap 6 ended in the first round. We have highlights in sports.
You're watching 25 News Now at 10. Good evening and thank you for joining us. I'm Don Brubaker.
And I'm Karina Garcia.
A young contract worker at Formosa Plastics Corporation died this morning. Early reports say he fell 40 feet from a scaffold on just his second day on the job. It's unclear if the worker had an experienced journeyman with him. It's unclear if he was tied down with fall protection or if it failed. The name of the worker who died was not released. More information on our website, crossroadstoday.com. Friday morning, Victoria County Sheriff's deputies arrested two men at a home in the 2600 block of Prince Street. 38-year-old Daniel Jose Camino Real arrested for court warrants, and 33-year-old Gerard O'Neill Farrow arrested for felony possession of a controlled substance. Also there, a juvenile male suspected shooter taken into custody and charged with aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. That is connected to a July 2nd shooting in the 500 block of Commerce Street in Bloomington. 3 different weapons taken in the search.
Victoria police investigating a report of shots being fired at Our Lady of Victoria Church located at the corner of Laurent and Mesquite. According to witnesses, someone fired shots into the door during the night. Police is asking for anyone who has information to come forward and call them at 361-573-3221 or 361-485-3200. Today, authorities in Jackson County released the mugshot of a jailer arrested Wednesday. 58-year-old Donald Morris is accused of having an improper relationship with an inmate. The Texas Rangers are investigating the case. The county employee faces charges of violating the civil rights of a person in custody and improper sexual activity with a person in custody. Bond set at $75,000, and 25 News Now has requested the arrest warrant in the case.
No one was injured after a 3-vehicle crash in the 600 block of East Mockingbird Lane Friday afternoon. A gray Ford truck carrying a trailer was traveling eastbound behind a red Chevy Trailblazer that came to a stop because of traffic. Traveling on the outside lane was a black Cadillac ZTS. The Ford truck driver did not see traffic was stopped and swerved right to avoid hitting the vehicle in front of it. The back of the Chevy was hit, as well as the left driver's side of the black Cadillac. And let's take a first look at your forecast with First Orange Storm Team Chief Meteorologist Mac Pettis. Mac is so smart about weather. Now, I saw this headline on a website tonight. I'm just going to bring this out. This is what NOAA is saying, okay? Record warm Gulf of Mexico, partially responsible for Texas heat wave. Mac, your thoughts?
Ooh. Absolutely. I mean, the water, you know, over the last 20 years, the heat in the atmosphere has been going into the oceans. It's a heat sink, and therefore it was protecting us from the heat that we're now getting. But now with the water's already warm, and now the atmosphere is warm, so it's all connected together. So the answer is yes, the warm waters. Well, we talked about Miami just a couple of days ago. In the Everglades, they had temperatures in the water at 95 degrees. That's a bathtub. It's not good for us. But anyway, here are your high temperatures for today. We'll talk about the rest of the weekend coming up in a moment.
Mac, thank you. ERCOT reports Texas set a new unofficial July and all-time peak electricity demand record Thursday. That broke the all-time record set Wednesday. ERCOT has also issued a weather watch for this Sunday through Tuesday due to forecasted higher temperatures, higher electrical demand, and the potential for lower reserves. ERCOT reports there is currently enough capacity to meet expected demand. Texas officials installing 1,000 feet of floating fence in the Rio Grande to keep migrants from crossing the river illegally near Eagle Pass. DPS officials say they hope this will stop people from crossing. They say 4 migrants, including a baby, drowned just last week attempting to cross the Rio Grande, but not everyone likes the floating fence. An Eagle Pass kayaking outfitter suing the state and Governor Greg Abbott, saying the barrier threatens both his business and the ecosystem of the river.
A third bus of migrants have arrived from Texas to Los Angeles Thursday afternoon. Authorities said 35 passengers from Brownsville arrived in downtown Los Angeles about 12:20 p.m. They were offered limited services, including food, clothing, and legal immigration consultations. Governor Greg Abbott said he sent the bus to Los Angeles because California declared themselves a sanctuary city for immigrants and extended protections to people living in the country illegally. And so this brings us to your viewer poll tonight. Scan that QR code on your screen to vote right now. The question is sending migrants to sanctuary cities a good strategy for the migrant situation, yes or no? Well, according to these results tonight, 42% are saying yes and 58% stand at no. Thank you for voting tonight. Visit us tomorrow for our latest viewer poll.
The Texas Department of State Health Services has launched a fentanyl data dashboard. This is part of the state's One Pill Kills campaign and shows and tracks fentanyl poisoning deaths. Texans can access information that shows fentanyl-related deaths from the past 10 years and by demographics or geography. To see the dashboard, come to our website, crossroadstoday.com, for more information. Police in Alabama are searching for a woman who disappeared after stopping to help a toddler she saw walking on an interstate. Thursday night, 25-year-old Claritha Nicole Russell called 911 to tell authorities about the child. Russell's mother says after calling 911, her daughter called her sister-in-law. Police found Russell's hat, wig, and cell phone near her car on an interstate outside of Birmingham. Authorities reported no one had called to report a missing child. Several law enforcement agencies are now working on the case. And in New York, a major development in the case of a serial killer from more than a decade ago. Police took a person into custody Thursday night in connection with the Gilgo Beach murders on Long Island after a years-long investigation.
A major break in a cold case that's haunted New York's Long Island for more than a decade. 59-year-old architect and married father of 2, Rex Heuermann, arrested and charged with first-degree murder in connection with what's known as the Gilgo Beach murders.
Rex Heuermann is a demon that walks among us, a predator that ruined families.
10 bodies were discovered in a wooded area near the beach in 2010 and 2011. Authorities allege Heuermann is responsible for the deaths of 3 women, Melissa Barthelemy, Megan Waterman, and Amber Costello, and is the prime suspect in the death of a 4th woman, Maureen Brainerd Barnes, according to court documents, but he's not been charged in that case.
The only thing I can tell you that he did say as he was in tears was, "I didn't do this."
The 4 bodies found covered in burlap.
Immediately, there were similarities with regard to the crime scenes. All the women were bound at the head.
Court documents describe the victims as petite women, 22 to 27 years old, working as sex workers. Chilling new details revealed in court documents. Prosecutors allege Heuermann used burner phones to communicate with the victims and to conduct thousands of searches related to sex workers and sadistic torture-related pornography. They say he also allegedly conducted over 200 searches related to the Gilgo murders, the investigation, as well as pictures of the victims and their families. Local police joining forces with the FBI, first identifying Heuermann as a suspect last year. Then authorities say they tracked Heuermann's car and cell phone records before collecting DNA from this pizza crust from a trash can outside his Midtown Manhattan office in January of this year. Authorities say they connected the DNA to strands of hair found on one of the victims. He was then arrested at that office Thursday night. In this 2022 interview, Heuermann spoke about his job.
Okay. Rex Heuermann, I'm an architect, I'm an architectural consultant, I'm a troubleshooter, born and raised on Long Island.
Heuermann's attorney entering a not guilty plea on his behalf, a judge ordering him held without bail. Rena Roy, ABC News, New York.
The U.S. House barely passed a heavily amended version of the National Defense Authorization Act today. Some of the amendments advanced by the Freedom Caucus and passed by the House would cut funding for diversity programs, transgender care, and abortion services for members of the military. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy commented on its passage.
Just focus on the military. Stop using taxpayer money to do their own wokeism. A military cannot defend themselves if you train them in woke. We don't want Disneyland to train our military. We want our men and women in the military to have every defense possible, and that's what our bill does. The money focuses directly on their quality of life and, more importantly, on the investment.
The U.S. Senate will have to take up the bill and go through a reconciliation process with the House version that passed today. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Crossroads Today. Hit the like button and click the notification bell. Then you can be on YouTube and get Crossroads Today. And stay with us. Coming up on 25 News Now at 10. The Biden administration has announced $39 billion in student debt relief due to administrative fixes.
Also, the heat is so intense, one lady decided to bake bread in her mailbox.
Here's a look at what's coming up on Community Crossroads. We hear from Theater Victoria, the Victoria Police Department, the Choir Chamber of Commerce, and we also learn about a speech therapy.
Symptoms could be anything from difficulty chewing, holding food in your mouth, difficulty swallowing, coughing, throat clearing after the swallow, and then just feeling like food is stuck in your throat.
Was killed after she was run over by a lawnmower over the weekend in California. Authorities say the incident happened around noon on Saturday at a park while a landscape services employee was cutting grass. The employee saw a body in an area he had already passed through and called 911. The woman, identified as 27-year-old Christine Chavez, was sleeping on the grass at the time. An investigation determined the incident was accidental and no charges were filed as of today. The Biden administration has announced $39 billion in student debt relief. 104,000 borrowers will have their student debt wiped soon due to administrative fixes. Right now, there are multiple repayment plans for borrowers with federal student loans based on a borrower's income and family size. Last month, the Supreme Court struck down Biden's loan forgiveness program to provide millions of borrowers up to $20,000 in one-time federal student debt relief. 2 dogs were left out in the hot weather in Fort Myers, Florida. One died
Well, the other one was removed by Domestic Animal Services. That group and the Sheriff's Office Animal Cruelty Task Force team arrived and confronted the dog's owners. Investigators say the dog was left out in 96-degree weather with nothing but a tether around the neck. The owner of the dog that died bonded out of jail. As for the second dog, the owners were cited and surrendered the dog to the DAS. A Texas grandma has heard from people across the globe after a picture of what appeared to be her baking bread in her mailbox went viral.
Yeah, but some question whether she really did do it, and tonight we find out the truth.
This right here, this is the mailbox. You may have got those images of the grandma that was making bread in it. She pulled the bread right out of the mailbox right here and said it was baked in the mailbox. Well, we tracked her down and found out exactly why she did it.
This parcel has reached more people than this Montgomery County grandma could ever imagine.
I have been contacted by people I've never heard from, countries I've never heard from.
Hundreds of people wanting to know how Roberta Wright did it. This week, she shared images on social media of what looks like her baking bread with her mailbox, an idea sparked by the recent string of Houston's hot, humid days.
And that kind of triggered, what else could you do if you have to use your oven mitts, if it's that hot there, and inside a rusty old mailbox, what could you do? So,
a viral post that sparked suggestions on what else the mailbox could be used for.
Can you put a pizza in your oven? Well, it's a little narrow, but I'm willing to try. It's kind of fun.
A function that saves money on electricity, but could create issues for Roberta's deliveries.
I bet it would be a nice surprise for your mail carrier. And my response is only bake on Sunday, no mail delivery.
If the story seems too good to be true, it's because it is. Roberta says while she shared photos of herself baking bread in the mailbox, it was all in fun.
But, you know, if it's on the internet,
must be true.
A lesson this grandma says isn't only found in her mailbox, but in the pages of her new book.
It's the storytelling of your imagination. Could it get hot enough? Could the yeast rise and everything like that?
A fiction partial that's reached more people than she ever thought possible.
Glad to see that lady wasn't loafing around. Hey, come on over to see what we're tweeting about on our Twitter page. Our partners at the Texas Tribune have an article about an $18 billion tax cut for property owners heading to Governor Greg Abbott's desk for signature. That, by the way, that bill has not been signed yet. That story is also on our Crossroads Today page.
Very interesting. So she didn't bake the bread in the oven.
Oh, she was poking fun.
Yeah, like she said, if it's on the internet, can it be true is more likely. Anyway, well, we're at 83 right about now, folks. I don't know if you noticed it, but we got up to 100 degrees this afternoon. Right there, we're a little bit about 1 o'clock, as you see right about there. We're supposed to be in the mid-90s. Yes, it's supposed to be warm. It is July. But we're going to be pushing record numbers next week. Yeah, I'm actually agreeing with ERCOT about it being hotter next week, maybe 2 or 3 degrees for us. So we'll talk about that coming up in just a moment. Welcome back, everybody. And you know, Don's wife called us and said there's no way she could have cooked it in the oven because you got to have it at 325 degrees, right? I mean, and couldn't have baked it in the oven. But, you know, now we know from a professional who knows how to bake. Anyway, these are your baking temperatures for tomorrow, or shall we say sauna-like temperatures for tomorrow. Hey, let's do kitchen jokes now. We're gonna be baked and sautéed tomorrow, or sautéed. We're looking at 98 for us, but these are the high temperatures forecast not only for Texas, but from here all the way to the West Coast, we're going to be dealing with the heat. Now, for those of you that are bound to go play golf or something like that, just know, middle part of the day, you just got to get plenty of fluids, and if you feel a little lightheaded, just take it easy, wear a hat. But the best part, of course, is the morning or the late afternoon. Hardly a cloud in the sky over Texas today, and even this stuff is north of the Red River. Well, okay, one cloud over Amarillo, and that's about it. So just the high and dry, and of course the heat advisories continue. Whatever you've done in the past to try and stay cool, you know, go to the movies, read a book, go to the mall, walk around, go to the H-E-B, any of that stuff will be helpful just to cool you down, or even take a nice cool shower if you're overdoing it. But as I mentioned, the heat wave goes from here through Texas all the way out here. In fact, why is it hotter out there than over us if we're suffering? Well, because the center of the high pressure is over the southwest right now. So places like Arizona, California, Nevada, they're all looking at 115 degrees. Now in the Death Valley, which is down here, down in the desert, they're still looking at 131 degrees on Sunday. We'll see if that comes to pass. But if you notice something, the high comes this way. So that means that we're going to be under the greatest pressure as a result. That's why I believe that by Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, we start seeing 100-degree temperatures. There's a little bit of good news. In the 7th day, 8th day, the system moves back a little bit, and we're going to get a little bit of a northerly flow, which might actually break the temperatures out of the hundreds back to the 90s. Now, wouldn't that be nice? Just 90 degrees. Well, here's Dandy Don, the tropical storm. Not our Don, because our Don knows where it's going. This Don doesn't know where it's going. Look, it went up, it went down, it's going round and round. I mean, that is the most confused tropical storm I've seen in a long time. Meanwhile, on the other side, this is going to be very interesting. This is Hurricane Calvin. It is going to strengthen to a Category 2, then fall apart, but the remnants will probably drift over Hawaii. I don't know if you're going, but it's certainly in the path over there. So here's your forecast, your day planner. For those of you getting up early to go fishing in Port Lavaca, it'll be 83, so dress appropriately. Big hats, you know, the big hats. And then 96 will be their afternoon high. For those of you farther inland in Cuero, you're looking for, I didn't do that. That was the computer model that went up to 102 in the inland areas. So that tells me that maybe that 98 might be a little too low. So we'll go to 98 to 100. But it's beginning Monday where I think you'll really feel it, because it's going to be very, very hot and very, very humid as the pressure centers over us. Other than that, have a great weekend, okay? And want to remind everybody that we've got a, you want to scan that with your phone and put Crossroads Today right on top of your phone. Gino, are you golfing this weekend?
I am golfing this weekend, but first we got Tapper Scrap, which is not leaving fans disappointed. I wish I could be there, but I got to show you all highlights after the break. At Crossroads, the Victoria Community Center hosted Tapper Scrap 6 tonight, and the bouts did not disappoint, including this one between Tamoy Levon Williams and Javon Wiley. This match was the fourth of the night. Both fighters testing the waters early, throwing jabs and kicks, but then in an instant, the Williams, the one on your right, has a right hand and he knocks his block off. Williams did not let this opportunity go to waste. He continues to ground and pound Wiley. The referee kept asking Wiley to put up a fight, but he was smothered by Williams, who was relentless in his pursuit for victory. This was Williams' first win, and it came in his MMA debut. Then in the fifth fight of the night out of San Antonio, Taylor Andrews faces off against Ricardo Gutierrez from Laredo, each man trying to get their first victory of their career. Taylor lands a big kick, but no damage done. Gutierrez also lands a big kick. Beginning to heat up. Gutierrez with another kick, almost buckles Andrews, but Andrews mauls him into the fence and eventually gets the takedown and is credited with it. Andrews also on his back, and Gutierrez not looking good. He has a leg lock across the midsection of Gutierrez and starting to stretch him out, nearly in a rear naked choke. Fast forward a few seconds, and Andrews eventually gets the rear naked choke, and it was a matter of time before Gutierrez finally taps out. The San Antonio fighter gets the victory via submission. There were still 7 more fights to go and is expected to go till 11 o'clock tonight. There were many fans in attendance, and I heard that the 6th fight was the craziest of all so far. Now the Victoria Generals came into tonight with a 2-game losing streak. They hope to break it against the team that walked it off against them last night with a grand slam. The Generals scored first after Xavier Perez brings in Robert Newland in a double to give the Generals the lead. The River Monsters answered back with 4 runs after the Generals had 4 errors, even though Seguin had 3 hits. Victoria did score 1 run in the top of the 3rd, but that was it. Slowly but surely, the Generals battled back and tied it up in the 6th, but the River Monsters went on and added to its lead to get the victory. The Generals lose its 3rd straight game, final score 6-4. The Generals will play again tomorrow. And speaking of Saturday, the Generals are hosting a strikeout cancer night at Riverside Stadium. The Generals will have an auction selling game-worn jerseys after the game, with 100% of the money going towards the fight against cancer. Gates open at 6 and first pitch is at 7:05 against the River Monsters. 3-time Olympic gold medalist Gabby Douglas says she will return to competitive gymnastics. In an Instagram post on Thursday, Douglas said she wants to compete because she loves the sport. Douglas added the hashtag 2024 at the end of her post, implying she will compete in the Paris Olympics next year. Douglas won 2 gold medals at the 2012 London Olympics, including the all-around event, and won a team gold at the 2016 Rio Games. Well, that's your sports. Don and Karina, back to you.
Thanks, Gino. Stay with us. Coming up on 25 News now at 10. We'll take a last look at your weather. Plus, a ribbon cutting ceremony takes place in Port Lavaca today.
Rockingham celebrates a ribbon-cutting ceremony and a significant milestone in their ongoing efforts to rebuild communities affected by Hurricane Harvey. The Texas General Land Office awarded a substantial grant of nearly $5.5 million towards the construction of the 21-unit affordable rental complex. The completion of Enclave at Independence provides the community access to safe, affordable, and sustainable housing.
You know, we love being a part of helping communities grow the way they need to grow. You know, what I say every day is the metric that we measure our agency by is you're supposed to serve the people you're supposed to serve, and you're supposed to do it well.
Of these apartment units, 51% are guaranteed for low to moderate income residents. I'll have Mac say the last two words of this story. Christmas came early for a reindeer farm in western Kentucky. Anderson is the first reindeer calf born at the farm in Bowling Green. The new addition is named after the Anderson family who owns the reindeer farm. Anderson was born back in May and is doing fine since joining the herd. And there's no word yet if Anderson has played any silly
reindeer games.
Yes. I'd love to share punchline.
Oh my
Thank you.
goodness.
Will this weather be leave us punchy because it's so hot this weekend?
I feel better that we're talking about reindeer. Just on that
that word
alone.
reindeer,
Just
yeah.
on that alone. Reindeer. Let's think of Christmas. No, unfortunately not, folks. We continue with our hot weather. It's going to be quite oppressive. And as I mentioned, I think the temperatures will get up into the 100s next week. So if you're going to go out, just do be cautious. Don't overdo it. In the middle part of the day, strenuous activity could get you. So if you're playing golf, make sure you get plenty of fluids. And I do mean water, okay?
Alrighty. Thank you, Mac. Now, the 15th annual South Carolina Ride to End Alzheimer's kicked off this morning. Hundreds of cyclists will ride 250 miles to help find a cure for Alzheimer's disease. Not only do they ride from the mountains to the coast, they raise money that helps the state chapter of the Alzheimer's Association provide educational programs, support groups, a 24-hour helpline, and other services.
My grandfather, Oliver George Saddle, passed away from Alzheimer's. It's been a big thing in my life growing up, having to deal with it, having to have a family member that had it and struggle with it. And I'm just super excited to be out here for my first time ever and pumped to ride to end Alzheimer's.
The 3-day bike ride will go through Columbia and in Charleston on Sunday. There are 400 registered group riders with more than 70 others who signed up virtually to ride the miles on their own time this month. Wow.
Fantastic cause, and it ends in an amazing city, Charleston, South Carolina. Ooh.
Oh yeah,
What a city.
You love that city. You talk about the city.
Absolutely.
The history there. Grand. Alrighty, well, thank you for joining us for 25 News Now at 10 tonight.
Join Adam Seibel for 25 News Now Weekend. Good night and have a great weekend, everybody.